Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your Capital What's Up. I'm Chuck Wiger, your area state senator. Thank you very much for watching. Today, I'm very pleased to have the city manager for White Bear Lake, Ellen Richter. Welcome to our show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, being the city manager puts you in a highly responsible position, overseeing the directives that come from the mayor and the city council, and we appreciate what an important job that is. How does it feel to be the city manager?
Oh, it feels wonderful. You know, I was honored to have been appointed the city manager. It was something that was not something I had intended actually as part of my plan initially when I went back to the city of White Bear Lake after being home with my kids for a while, and it worked out that it all fell in place, and I couldn't be happier.
Wonderful. And we're going to talk more about that position, the duties. You mentioned the appointment from the mayor, who you work primarily with, and the city council, but ultimately the public. But you mentioned the kids and that path. Let's go down that path. Where were you raised?
I was actually raised in White Bear Lake, born and raised. So I
Wonderful.
have the unique opportunity to serve a community that I was born in. So it's
What neighborhood?
It's quite a privilege.
What neighborhood area?
I grew up over kind of in Old White Bear, Moorhead area, kind of near an old house called the Philibron House. So it's a historic area that I'm proud to be part of.
Okay. Any memories as a young child in
absolutely.
elementary school?
I do. You know, I have some pretty strong memories. Actually, when I reference the Philibron House, I have a lot of memories of Helen Philibron, who actually lived in what we used to call it the Red Chalet. No, I don't think.
Share a little bit more for those viewers that may not know about that.
Well, the Philibron House it was back. You know, it used to be a resort home for a family that would come out of St. Paul and take the train out to White Bear Lake.
Yes.
And there is, strong family history in that home, and it has a beautiful architecture, and it was preserved because the family, Helen and Art, lived in it up until, I'm guessing it must have been the mid 70s is when she finally passed, and Art ended up having to go to some assisted living. Yeah. But they preserved the history of the home and then donated it to our local historical society, who have since cared for it in a great way and have shared it with the community. So.
Some of your favorite activities as a child?
Oh, well,
growing
I
up
was
in White Bear.
I was, I was very interested in music, so I was, very strong into piano and enjoyed that in choir. So, and in addition to that, I had a lot of interest in different sport activities, kind of dabbled in a lot, depending on what I felt like during that particular season. But, I had lots of friends that lived close, and I really feel fortunate to have had the childhood and the education in the White Bear Lake School District. And
what schools?
I went to St. Mary's as a young elementary student, and then on to which was then Central, and so that is now, it still exists, but it's one of their two middle schools.
Yes.
And then from there I went on to the White Bear Lake Senior High School, and I was the last graduate, I am proud to say, of what was then, is now North Campus. And after I graduated, then the schools split into North and South campuses, which was, I think, a gift to our district to be able to kind of align the South and North side of town and bring them together into one high school. So, but
Favorite subject? Favorite subject in high school?
It was history and social studies. I always had a strong interest in it, carried that through into college with political science. So those are most of my favorite.
Any particular teacher that you'd like to recall?
Oh, I remember Mr. Ricbter, and for those who are listening would probably remember him as well. He was amazing, and also Mr. Connett was a history teacher that was, he was incredible. So we had some really, well, I have to say I was influenced by a lot of teachers. I had my German and my English and Mr. Eckers, and I had so many great experiences in high school, so great schools.
So you're part of that last graduating class, and from there you're going to go on to higher learning.
Yes, I did. I went on to spent my first year at St. Catherine's, and my intention was to go into music. That was my first year, was to study music. And
what aspect of music?
Piano and vocal.
Okay.
But from there I decided that I just had too many other things that I realized I wouldn't have time to dabble in. So I spread out from there, and I transferred to Eau Claire from there, and focused on German and political science as my undergrad. So I really wasn't certain even after that what my intent was, but I knew that those were the studies of interest, and from there it led me to grad school at the University of Minnesota for their public affairs program at the Humphrey Institute, which was an excellent program, a great experience, which led me to where I'm at now in public administration.
Okay. And along that way, you mentioned family, so you
Yes.
had some kids?
Yes, I do. Very proud to say I have 3 children. I have 2 that are actually attending college right now, part of the university system at UMD, and then I have a son who is still a junior in high school, and so they're all close in age and very close, and they're just, they're very special kids.
So why did you want to become a city manager or involved in city government?
Oh, I think, I've always I have a family I have a family of service. I think that that's always been an example that I've followed. Both my parents have been always actively involved in their community. I have siblings who have followed those same paths and extended family. So it was, without question, I wanted to be part of the public sector. I didn't know exactly in what venue until I finished my grad program, actually, and I found an internship at the city of White Bear Lake. And
Perfect.
It was from that I really began to better understand the role of local government and develop my passion to serve at that level. It really does provide an opportunity to be hands-on and see your work play itself out from beginning to end and be connected to the community more directly.
Do you recall during that internship for White Bear, where you were raised,
Yes.
some of the assignments that you had?
Well, I can remember very clearly my very first assignment as an intern. It was Capital for a Day. I don't know if you recall when Rudy Perpich was governor.
Of course I
He
do.
would go out and to different communities
Yes.
once a year, and White Bear Lake was selected as one of his communities, and so all of the commissioners would come out from his different departments and visit the community, and it gave us an opportunity to exchange information about what we were about and who we were, and they would learn again about our community. So that was my first assignment as an intern.
Yes.
And that's how that led me to get to know the city manager at the time, who was Mark.
Mark Sather?
Mark Sather, of course.
An institution.
He is, and I'll tell you, it was a working relationship developed and began at that point, and from there, I was hired on as a staff person, and I've really been
Right
there
from the
ever since.
internship.
Right from the internship.
So that resume,
Yeah.
White Bear Lake.
It's all White Bear Lake.
Very
It
stable.
is, yes, it is, and it's been a great journey.
Okay, so the duties that you had when you first started after the successful internship,
Yeah.
completed school,
Yeah.
Raising kids, balancing those
Yeah.
very important responsibilities, but what were things
my-
that you were doing that led to your ultimate appointment?
Primarily, I would say when I first started out, this is when there was a lot of attention on recycling and some of the solid waste initiatives back
Yes.
in, the early 90s.
Yes?
And so I spent a lot of time focusing on that and education relative to recycling and other efforts that were along the line of solid waste management.
Of course, through the legislature, our role, we had put requirements to increase
Absolutely.
the amount for the 3 R's: reduce, recycle, recover, reuse. I mean, you can add a fourth,
Absolutely.
and it was all in response to the public outcry that we stop putting everything into landfills.
Absolutely.
And so then what are we going to do about it? We need to conserve more. And actually some parallels on water, I guess, if we talk about that later.
Absolutely.
So big emphasis, and I did have a chance as a Metropolitan Council member to work with White Bear on those,
Great.
and particularly with Commissioner Reinhardt.
Absolutely.
So there's many levels of government involved, but ultimately it's that buy-in at the local level, and Mark Sather and through your planning commissions, your environmental commissions,
Absolutely.
you've done a great job. So you had a goal and worked on that.
We had and we continue to have a very supportive council relative to environmental initiatives, and so, for that I'm grateful. It's something I still feel very passionate about as a city manager, so we'll try to carry that forward.
Other big responsibilities.
I got involved quite, early on, and it carried through my career, involved in a lot of the human resource aspects of the more internal administrative work that I did at the city. I did take, I have to say, about 10 years off to be home with my kids. So
Yes.
there was a bit of a blip in my journey there. I was there for 5 years, took 10 years off, and then returned back in 2006. At that time, again, I would say that I did some contract work, working on our different contracts that the city administered. Also focused a lot on our HR
Yes.
issues, internal administration, I would say. And then we had some people that took other positions or resigned, and subsequently I took on the responsibilities from their departments, which allowed me to really spread my wings, so to speak, and learn more about different aspects of the organization. So that was,
Okay.
I was fortunate.
So you then are being groomed, I believe it would be a good word, for the city manager position, at least in an entire career devoted to that. And even when you're working quite a bit with the kids at home, doing work for the city. And at some point, Mark's going to retire after 30-some years, clearly one of the outstanding city managers in America, and has been recognized appropriately. But, you know, they had big shoes to fill.
Yes.
And I know there were applicants for sure. It's a great city, but you were the one. And that's a decision made by the mayor, the city council, with guidance. And you know, tell us about that relationship with the mayor and the council, and you know, how you report to them, but then how city government works overall.
Well, absolutely. I mean, maybe to go back first off to your point relative to, you know, hiring a city manager, it is per our charter.
Yes.
The mayor has the authority to appoint a city manager, and then at the consent of the council. So the council and mayor were all involved in that process, and it was I really needed to stay hands off, of course, because of my role as an applicant, but it was a rigorous process, and I was, you know, real pleased to be able to come out at the end of that. You know, as a city manager, really, I do report very directly. I work very closely with the mayor, and
Is your job description?
Pardon me?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And then, so, and per our charter, then what the mayor and council do is they defer then the day-to-day administrative duties to the city manager. So then I work with our management team to carry out those things that need to be done during the course of the daily business relative to our fire, police, community development, engineering.
You mentioned the city charter, and I would imagine that's online if people want to see that for your plan of government. And this is authority that the legislature provides for the creation of local government. What would you say would be the elevator speech as to what you do?
What I do, I guess I would say that I am responsible for overseeing the administration of the day-to-day services of the city. You know, and that would be my primary responsibility, and also to ensure that our council is kept well aware of what happens, so they can respond to any concerns or questions of the public. And then obviously and very intentionally carry forward the policies of the council. So the council, they are the policy makers, and as we talk about issues that come forward, we need to be sure that they are the ones in the front line and put into a position of being able to make the policy decisions, and that we follow through and administer the policies accordingly. So they have
policies,
a big job.
Ordinances, as they're called.
Absolutely.
And you have an overall comprehensive plan, and working with the Metropolitan Council, and this would be online, but there's a blueprint that you would have that is to help guide the orderly growth for you know, the White Bear Lake, and you work also with neighboring suburbs as well, and because we're all in it together.
We are in the school district, and
and in terms of the guidance that you get, you have a lot of commissions and others.
We do.
The public is a very important part of determining what that blueprint, what those ordinances are. So how does that all work?
Absolutely. No, they're a critical function of the way things are operated, and our mayor has the ability to appoint members to our various commissions that we have at the city. We have, you know, of course, our Environmental Advisory Commission, and our Parks Commission, and then we have a Planning Commission that, you know, talks specifically about different zoning issues and other things related to sign code and related issues. And we also
very important, and can be controversial like any item.
You know, and that really can be, those are those issues that really touch people very directly, because it would be people who have something, they just want to put a driveway in, or they have an addition on their house, things that are with their private property. So we have to balance the needs, the public needs relative to the private rights, and those are decisions that our Planning Commission has to wrestle with. We also have, you know, appointments to the White Bear Lake Conservation District that the mayor would make as well, and to our Cable Commission, and various volunteers that put an incredible amount of time into looking more carefully into issues, or I should say, have the opportunity to spend time looking very into depth into those issues, and then can make recommendations to our city council that they can consider at their meetings. So.
Okay. Probably one item that most people will relate to as importance would be public safety.
Correct.
A fundamental expectation of government that we be protected. They feel safe in neighborhoods, et cetera. Tell us about that relationship that you would have with police chief, fire chief, first responders, and how that relates then to the council.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing that I articulated during the course of my interviews, and I've now since been reaffirming with our staff, is that maintaining those relationships with our public safety department is going to be critical. And I think oftentimes in some cities there can be a bit, and I don't know this, I don't have any specific examples, because as far as I'm concerned, it generally works just fine, but I think it's important that you don't have these silos working, which I think can be a concern maybe for some. And so we are very fortunate to have a great management team, and our fire chief and our police chief are integral in that, in terms of discussing things that are outside even the purview of public safety, because I think all of our departments at some point we interact, so we like to try to meet as a management team and function accordingly. And that's really a very strong, for me, that's going to be very important as I move forward, I think, with my position.
You have a combination of professional and volunteer firefighters
We do,
serving?
yes. We have a paid-on-call fire and for our ambulance services. And we have just recently introduced some full-time ambulance or paramedics and EMTs that will respond during the day to help augment we just have a very high volume of calls relative to our growing senior population. So we're trying out some new models to make sure that we can try to keep things moving forward with our volunteer or paid-on-call model, which we think is critical in terms of maintaining our, responsible budgeting and funding for our taxpayers.
How is it for housing? The affordability of housing, you mentioned the increasing demographic for seniors.
Absolutely.
And but it's got to be affordable if one's going to stay there. What is the council charging you to do on that?
Right, we have had, I think, up till in very recent years, we've had a lot of success in some senior housing development, and some that are still online in terms of being finished. We have the Waters development, and we have the new development out by former Mrs. Landy's property, which we fondly refer to it as. It's the Towers development.
Yes.
And these are pretty significant relative to some senior housing needs that we've seen emerging in our community. For affordable housing, I feel like, White Bear, we've done a great job of maintaining a balance with our affordable housing, recognizing it's very important to remain diverse in our housing base, so we can attract families of all economic needs.
Of course, the White Bear Lake, the lake level, has received a great deal of attention, and it will over the next few years. The council, mayor, as well as yourself, Public Works, you're actively involved in going to a lot of meetings. Any comments at this point that you'd like to share as to how we're going to figure this out?
Well, I just know that the problem's complex. I think it's something that everybody knows is very obvious. Our council right now continues just to ask questions. They need to have very obvious and very specific certain information relative to ongoing operational costs, of course, which would be a concern, I think, to all residents, and then making sure that our water quality is preserved.
Yes.
And at the same time, very interested in meeting the needs and of our water levels. I mean, it's all of those things that they're right now wrestling with and trying to balance.
Yeah.
So
Well, we know it's a high priority.
Very high priority.
And the priorities are continually discussed. They're online. You get a plan that is implemented. Work with citizens, and citizens that are watching and others, they're invited to contact you or the mayor, the council, to provide additional input. So with all that you're working on, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I don't have a lot right now, but I hope to. No, I still
Sleep?
Yeah, I try to sleep.
Okay.
I still enjoy my music, so I like, as much as I have an opportunity to get to the piano, and otherwise I have a lot of reading that I'm trying to get done. And
Do you perform publicly?
Not anymore. My skills aren't quite as they used to be.
Next show we'll
maybe
showcase that.
another time, but yeah.
Okay.
So, and otherwise just try to spend time with family and friends.
Well, wonderful. Well, we congratulate you on your successful journey
Thank you.
from a child to leading the city with the mayor and city council. It's a great success story. We invite viewers to contact your office if you'd like to
Please.
give the number for City Hall or
Yes.
the website.
Sure, absolutely. So if you would like to call our main City Hall number, which is 651-429-8526, and you can
We're going to say that
direct it-
one more time, a little slower.
I talk a little fast.
No,
Sorry.
that's
Yep,
okay.
651-429-8526. That's
Okay.
our main number. And then certainly my number is going to be changing. So if I give you one now, then it might be
Sure,
done.
they'll
in
get
about-
to it. Then you have a
Absolutely.
great website that
We do,
you can navigate.
absolutely. And that, simply go to www.whitebearlake, which is all one word, .org, and you'll get to our website filled with a lot of great information.
Ellen Richter, City Manager, White Bear Lake, thank you very much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Continued success.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, if you have questions of Ellen Richter, please give her a call or contact the mayor, the city council. I know they will be responsive. If you want to share suggestions with me, give me a call. My cell phone is 651-770-0283. With Ellen Richter, I'm Chuck Wiger. Thank you very much for watching.